Pardon the interruption, but I'm Jackie McMullen in for Michael Wilbon. Hey, Tony, does Wilbon only work when he feels like it?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Wilbon's working right now. Sitting by a pool in Phoenix, working on a couple of Kia Royales in his tan line. Picture that, America. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. Wilbon's out at the Fiesta Bowl, so our good friend Jackie McMullen of the Boston Globe is bailing him out. And we start with the final and only truly important bowl game. Tonight's Fiesta Bowl game for the national championship between Miami and Ohio State. And Jackie, with all the storm and drang about Maurice Clarett, it seems to have gone unnoticed that Miami is working on a 34-game winning streak and going for its second straight national championship. So let's cut to the chase. Do you think Miami's going to win? If so, by how many?
Miami's going to win this game, and they're probably going to win by around 2 touchdowns, because how do you stop this group? And while we're talking about streaks, how about Ken Dorsey, 38-1 as a starter? How does this guy finish 5th in the Heisman Trophy voting? I don't understand.
He finishes 5th in the Heisman because he's got to split the votes with Willis McGahee. I wish you'd been here for months because I've been arguing with Wilbon. I think Dorsey's very underrated, very underappreciated. There's some notion out there that anybody can be the trigger man for this team, and I don't think that's true.
There's no way that's true. Now, he does have great receivers in Winslow and Johnson, but you know, everybody makes a misstep somewhere along the way. Ken Dorsey really hasn't.
They've got all the speed, I believe, on their side of the ball. If Ohio State had that kind of speed, they'd approximate it in practice, and then they'd use it in the game.
Right.
What happens when Ohio State sees speed like they've never seen?
Well, the best way to counteract speed is if they're zooming up the line, they get 7 yards on them. Hit them so hard that they think the next time about going up the line. That's the only chance Ohio State has.
So you want it to be a brawl. If you're Ohio State, you favor a brawl at this point?
Well, I don't know about a brawl, but you got to hit these guys and make them, you know, if they make a catch, hit them, much like the Patriots did to the St. Louis Rams. If they catch the ball, level them.
That's interesting. There's a great disparity in potential pro talent, though. Ron Jaworski told me earlier today that Butch Davis, a couple of years ago when he left Miami, handed him a program and said of the roster at the time, 40 guys would be in the NFL. Ohio State doesn't have 40.
You know what? Ken Dorsey's going to be one of them. USC quarterback Carson Palmer further cemented his claim to the Heisman Trophy by pummeling Iowa and Heisman runner-up Brad Banks last night in the Orange Bowl. Now, sure, USC has 2 losses, but they outscored UCLA, Notre Dame, and Iowa 134-51 in their final 3 games. So I ask you, Tony, wouldn't you love to see one more football game with USC playing the winner of the Fiesta Bowl?
Well, you'd like to see it because of Carson Palmer. He was so impressive late in the season, had his biggest games on the biggest stage. You'd like to see him do this. Big, strong kid. Obviously, that's not going to happen. You covered New England with Bledsoe. He reminds me of Bledsoe. Is it an accurate comparison?
Well, he has. I don't know if he quite has the arm strength Bledsoe has. I'm not sure anybody has. And the other thing I'm not sure that he probably does have that Bledsoe has was a little bit of lack of mobility out of the pocket, which is probably why he's not going to be the #1 quarterback pick.
I think he will be the #1 quarterback
I don't think
pick.
he will be.
Really?
No.
Well, we'll have a bet on that now. But
okay.
Brad Banks, who does have that mobility, what happened to him? He was throwing wide right, wide left by 3-4 yards. What happened to him?
Well, one of the things that happened was he played a very good USC team. And, you know, it's great to have 25 touchdowns and 4 interceptions during the year, but when the spotlight shone on these guys, the entire Iowa team fell down.
Do you think it works against Ohio State tonight that Iowa got beat by USC that way? Because people thought Iowa was better than Ohio State.
I don't think Iowa State cares about any game but their own.
Our friend Peter King of Sports Illustrated and HBO says he believes Bill Parcells will do Jerry Jones's dirty work for him and cut Emmitt Smith himself. Parcells has a history of walking into a new job and taking down a general. But, Jackie, I don't believe that Parcells will cut Emmitt Smith to make it easier on Jerry Jones. I don't believe he'll cut Emmitt Smith unless he's convinced that Emmitt Smith can't play for him.
Well, you're absolutely right, because there's no sentiment involved in any decisions Parcells makes. If you look at what happened when he went to New England, the first thing he did was cut Vincent Brown and Andre Tippett, the 2 undisputed leaders of that defense. When he went to the New York Jets, who does he send packing? Hugh Douglas, who was one of the highly touted young players they had at the time. He doesn't care. If you produce, he'll keep you. If you don't, you're gone.
You covered him. Is he worth all this
Is he worth it? He absolutely is. He will have this team in the playoffs within 2 years. Now, by year 4, he and Jones will be feuding like crazy, but it won't matter because they'll be in the Super Bowl.
What talent do you see that enables you to believe he'll have that quick turnaround?
See, that's the big misnomer about this Dallas team. They have a terrific young defense. They have great team speed on defense. They have this kid, Roy Williams, the safety, who's a star in the making. They have Greg Ellis, a great pass rusher. This team isn't that far away, and Parcells is all about defense.
That's fine, but you have to score some points. They
Well,
have no offensive line. I don't think they have a
Their
quarterback
offensive
right
line
now.
is better than you think, too.
What do they do for a quarterback?
Well,
do
I'll
they
tell you
keep
what
the guy
they'll
in
do.
place?
No, they'll take the 5th pick in the draft, which they have, and they'll trade it for a veteran guy to bring in. And from what I understand, Parcells likes Jake Plummer. You might see him there next
So
year.
you're not surprised that after all the years of denying that he was going to go back into the game that he went
come
back
on.
in?
Tony Kornheiser, Michael Jordan's here in your town. He's on his 3rd comeback. Now, I was told that if I came on this show, I was banned from talking about the NHL under any circumstances
Absolutely.
unless it involved a catastrophic event. And I think I've got one for you, Tony. The Ottawa Senators, the best team in the NHL this year, failed to pay their players this week after a refinancing deal involving the sale of their team fell through. The players were handed empty envelopes and a letter assuring them this was a one-time situation. Now, with the Buffalo Sabres also in financial trouble, maybe it's time to ask the question, should the NHL be seriously talking about contraction?
I'll get to that question, but how did you know? Here's my other question. How did you know Ottawa was the best team in the league? If you gave me 5 shots, I wouldn't have come up with Ottawa. In terms of...
And you admit that on your own show.
We don't talk about hockey here. This
Okay,
is
I
a gift
understand.
for you.
Thank you.
In terms of contraction for the league, I don't think you contract a product when they move a lot of ticket sales. They don't have a great TV contract, but they move ticket sales. But they have been using expansion as a way to prop up other owners, because expansion guys come in, they pay a fee, and everybody else gets rich. In this particular case, the league must step in and guarantee all these contracts. Don't you think? They've got to pay the people immediately.
Well, I think this deal is going to go through eventually, but I think the NHL has bigger problems. You mentioned poor TV revenues, and that's one of them. But you know what? In my city, Boston, a huge hockey town, they're not going to see the Bruins, who are a very good team, because they can't afford it.
Then that's the first time, because they have raised tickets in every single sport, and it has not hurt attendance yet. Jackie, I'm glad you're here, because there's a developing story with the Philadelphia 76ers that your many years of covering the NBA can help us with. It seems that in the last 2 road games with the Sixers, at Utah and then last night at Phoenix, some person or persons have thrown a live rat onto the floor. Last night, the rat didn't come out until the 4th quarter, which means somebody had a live rat in his pants for at least 36 full minutes. I mean, really, is that a rat in your pocket? You're just happy to see Allen Iverson.
I don't know. That rat looks to me like it's on life support. But I think I've figured this out, Tony. I think this is Clone Aid testing out their cloned rats, throw them onto the court. If Allen Iverson stomps him and he can live to another day, we've got a whole new arena business.
Do you like when anybody throws animals, alive or dead, out onto the field?
Absolutely. Octopuses, I love that.
In Detroit?
Fish, I love the fish.
Fish? Who does fish?
My alma mater, UNH, you score a goal in hockey, we throw a fish on. It could be a goldfish, a flounder, live fish, dead fish, whatever we have in the
This is
apartment
University of
that
New
day.
Hampshire?
That's right.
You were an athlete. You played basketball. Did they throw fish out when you scored?
I didn't score enough for them to... Nobody came to see me play, Tony.
We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll head down to the Fiesta Bowl for a pregame report from our Southwest Bureau Chief, Richie Justice. Here's your boy, Dorsey.
Pardon the interruption. Presented by Smirnoff Ice Premium Malt Beverage. Intelligent Nightlife.
As my friend Sergio from Rio says.
Excuse me, did you say Sergio? From Rio.
Yes?
Your darkish, lightish hair? About this high? Heavy set, thin guy?
You know Sergio?
Yeah.
Come join us! Wait. Let's go see Sergio.
Smirnoff Ice Premium Malt Beverage. Intelligent Nightlife.
That's right, let's go! Look, smoke flames, huh? You know what I mean? The streets is out, right? You know what I mean? It's going down, Funk Master
Give me the wrench.
Here it is. Hold that thing.
Hi, sweetie!
It's good to do things yourself, but you ought to do your homework first. Same thing with the stock market. That's why TD Waterhouse gives you easy access to all the research you need, all in one place. Because you've got to learn before you can earn.
TD Waterhouse, you're in control.
She won't come in the light.
Who?
You know who.
You're safe in the light
We stay in the light, we stay alive.
until darkness falls.
Don't let them put him in the dark.
Darkness Falls. Rated PG-13. In theaters January 24th.
There's no reason why that ball should have gone through Buckner's legs. There's no reason why any of the runs before that should have been scored. There's no reason why the Mets should have even been in the World Series. No reason why they should have won 108 games. They were outmanned by the Red Sox. The Red Sox had the most dominating players in baseball. The numbers had almost become sublime. There are numbers that are actually bigger than baseball. Laws of probability that supersede the rules of statistics. Things that are even bigger than the curse of the Bambino. Things that say that if you call heads 100 times in 100 seasons, that one of those times it's going to have to land heads.
We're going to spend the next 5 good minutes with our Southwest Bureau Chief, Richard Justice of the Houston Chronicle, who joins us from the site of tonight's Fiesta Bowl. And Richie, we thought we were going to talk to Wilbon, but he went AWOL. Have you seen him?
This is a great week for Wilbon. The parades, the floats, the pageantry, the mascots, the bands, and that's just when he gets to the airport. I think he flew to Santa Fe for the day because his jet keeps flying over.
That would be a frightening thought that Wilbon became such a big star. The big story this week, besides Wilbon, of course, has been Maurice Clarett and his criticism of Ohio State in the wake of his inability to fly back to the funeral of his friend. Is there a sense that this is motivating Clarett, or will it hurt him for this game?
Well, I think in the end it's going to motivate him because he's sort of put himself out there on the line by addressing other issues. You know, it started as nothing. It was at the end of an interview session. Somebody asked a very innocent question about his upbringing, and the words, the way he said the words, did not match the gravity of the words. He did not seem angry that first day. He seemed more resigned, more sad, more like a guy grumbling about his boss at the water cooler instead of in front of a bunch of reporters. Now, the second day, he didn't like some of the things that were said, and he was mad the second day, and they didn't let him speak to the press after the second day. My problem is I don't know what he expected Ohio State to do. They say they didn't have the paperwork to give him the money, and I don't know what else could have been done at that point, but it definitely added a little spin. Maybe it gave the Buckeyes something else to think about, because instead of being asked about Miami constantly, they were asking about him. So we'll see how it plays out. We'll know by halftime.
Richard, what's the reaction from the boosters? Do they have sympathy for this kid, or is their attitude, hey, you know what, just be quiet and go out and win us the game?
I don't think they wanted to see this in the paper. I think there was some negative reaction from the columnists back in Ohio, and I think they thought the second day the answer to the question should have been, hey, we'll address this later. Let's think about Miami right now. And at one point he said, hey, I just want to get the game over with. Now, he retracted that, but at that point, after you say it, you know, that's what people focus on. If Ohio State loses the game and he gains 13 yards, he's probably going to hear about it.
Do we get any sense that Clarett has maybe rethought this whole NFL policy and is now thinking about trying to go pro at all?
No, even after this happened, he said emphatically, I'm coming back. I understand this year that physically I'm not up to the wear and tear of a 16-game season. You know, he's a terrific player, but he got hurt. He had a knee injury and a shoulder injury, and he said, and if you take him at his word, I will be back at Ohio State next year, and I will not challenge the NFL rule on that.
Let me get to the game itself. In the wake of what happened when USC beat Iowa so badly, and so many people who covered the Big Ten thought Iowa could beat Ohio State, are there any true believers left in Ohio State right now?
Right. I think you have to think everything has to go right. They have to be able to run the ball. They have to be able to stop Willis McGahee from running the ball. And they have to get lucky. They have to hope Dorsey, there's a tip ball. They have to hope that Chris Gamble, you know, who's this kid that's going to be on the field for every game at cornerback and a wide receiver, that he makes a play, returns a punt, returns a kickoff. They have to get fortunate. If Miami plays Miami's game with all those first-round draft picks and all those talent, all the poise, Miami's going to win.
Well, let me get to the historical significance here. Miami's got 34 in a row. This could be 35, closing in on 47 that Oklahoma had. You grew up not far from Oklahoma in Texas. What is the magnitude of how close they are now?
Well, I think, you know, for us out here, looking in, it's unbelievable. You know, I grew up in Texas. Texas won 30 in a row, and it seems impossible to do that again. I mean, no team in college football since they lost last 2 years ago has lost fewer than 4 games. So it's just incredible. They've had a few lucky breaks, but basically they've gone every day and got it done. Having said that, the word from Larry Coker, their head coach this week, was, we're not talking about it. And players would tell you, we're not talking about it. And you could not make them talk about it. I think he felt that to get them focusing on the streak. And you talk about 1898, you talk about the Oklahoma teams of the 50s. That was too overwhelming. Don't think about it. Just think about doing your job against Ohio State. And that's pretty much what they've done for the last 34 games.
You mentioned Coker. Let me get to him before we let you go. He has never lost a game as the coach of Miami. Nobody knows anything about him.
Huh?
It's not like the guy's a potted plant, is it?
No, it's not like a guy's a potted plant. He's a guy that couldn't get it, was turned down for the head coaching job at Tulsa, could not get an interview at Baylor. He coached there at small high schools in Oklahoma, coached against Butch Davis. Butch got to know him. He made stops along the way. He went to Ohio State for a season, then went to Miami with Butch when Butch came in there to try to resurrect that program, thinking it'll be a higher profile place. Maybe he can get a job. He was at the point in his life where he thought, I'm not going to get a head coaching job in college football, and it's not going to happen for me. And then what happens? Butch leaves, the defensive coordinator leaves, Barry Alvarez turns the guy down, Jim Tressel turns down the University of Miami, and the players go to the AD and say, hey, let's hire this guy. You know what? And he is so unassuming. He is a good guy. He's a good coach, and he's got a perspective on it. He said this week, he said 175 coaches in Division 1A think they could do what I have done here at Miami. And he goes, you know what? They probably could, because I stepped into a situation that does not come open. And he has kept it going, and the players, it is almost, he is a beloved figure on the team. He is you reflect your head coach, the poise and all that, and that's who he is pretty much.
Thank you, Richard. Richard, justice is everywhere, people. We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll debate who's more fun to watch, Jeremy Shockey or Terrell Owens. Jackie, do you have trouble pronouncing Terrell? Is it Terrell or Terrell?
Terrell.
There's a better way to put back what you sweat out. Nothing puts back the sodium, potassium, and carbs an athlete needs better than Gatorade. Is it in you?
Season is back.
Looking to dish and looking to slam.
With the return of Big Monday as Big East powers Notre Dame and Pittsburgh square off, followed by Big 12 favorite Kansas against Iowa State. Then, Super Tuesday debuts with Oklahoma taking on Connecticut and SEC heavyweight Florida against up-and-coming Mississippi State. Big Monday presented by Bud Light Monday. Super Tuesday presented by Dollar Rent-A-Car Tuesday on ESPN and ESPN2.
Lose fat, increase energy, feel better about yourself than you ever thought possible, all in less than an hour every other day. Reshape your body in record time with Fitness Made Simple's new 45-minute fat-burning workout.
This workout is a double threat to our fat reserves. Number one, we burn some fat just by doing the exercises. Number two, the lean muscle we build uses fat for energy 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, even while we're sleeping.
Work out at home with fitness celebrity John Bastow, doing exercises to sculpt your chest, back, shoulders, arms, legs, and abs.
There are no tricky dance moves, no high-impact gyrations, just lightweight training done at a heart-pumping cardio pace to build lean muscle and burn pounds of fat.
Join the thousands of men and women who are improving their bodies and lives with our best-selling videos. Call now or order online at our website, fitnessmadesimple.com.
Fitness Made Simple, bringing real results to real people.
Time to teach toss-up to Jackie. Here's how it works. The producer asks a question, we argue, you're wrong, I'm right, we move on. Got it? Let's get the first one from our producer over the loudspeaker.
Toss-up, who's done the better coaching job this season, Tony Dungy or Herman Edwards?
I'm going to take Herman Edwards.
Really?
Yeah, well, come on. After a loss to Cleveland in October, they're 2-5, they're going nowhere. He gives his now famous Edwards let's play to win speech. They go 7-2 the rest of the way. Last 2 weeks, they're on the brink of elimination. and they make the playoffs, and you know what? They're going to win their first-round game.
That's a wonderful speech that you just made about Herman Edwards, but it's got to be Dungy. He took a 6-10 team. He made them 10-6. He did it without basically Edgerrin James, who led the league in rushing the last couple of years. He took a defense ranked 29th, moved them up to 8th. They allowed 10 fewer points a game. It's got to be Tony Dungy. I love Herman Edwards. Can't be him.
And I like Tony Dungy, too, but I'll tell you what, Tony Dungy's going to lose. That's what's going to happen this weekend.
But it's not what's going to happen from now on. It's about what happened up until
listen,
now.
The New York Jets had to go to New England and beat them, and then they had to beat Green Bay, and they did it both. And I'm telling you, the team of destiny.
Next.
Toss up, who's the more exciting quarterback, Brett Favre or Michael Vick?
Hey, I love Brett Favre, but more exciting, there's nobody more exciting in the NFL right now than Michael Vick. He makes things happen every time he touches the ball. And you know what's great about him? He can throw it, he can run it, he can do it all. I love this kid.
Everybody loves him, and Michael Vick is more exciting right now than Brett Favre.
Well, that was the question. I'm just following your format.
The first time around the league, he was great. Now you get a book on a guy. Now you find out that he only goes left, so you force him right. Now he's not quite that effective. Let's see how...
Are you saying that's what's going to happen with Vick?
That's exactly what I'm saying right now. Let's see what happens in a cold night in Green Bay outdoors. I'm going to take Favre. Vick is more exciting. I'm going to take Favre because he's going to win that game. He is the best quarterback in the world.
He might win that game, but when he goes to Tampa Bay after they win their first-round game, he's not going to win that game because Green Bay hasn't played well in a row.
This is interesting.
Hey,
that wasn't the question.
Do you want to hear
that was next week's question.
22 years old. Remember that number. That's how old Michael Vick is.
We were 22 at one point. Not anymore. Next.
Toss up, who's more valuable to his team, William Green or Tommy Maddox?
Tommy Maddox is more valuable. The Steelers, I believe, were 0-2. They were going nowhere.
Again.
They put in Tommy Maddox. He was 7-3-1. He's got a compelling story. He was not only in the Arena League in the XFL, he was out of football for a while. He was selling insurance.
Yes,
it's a great story about perseverance. He's more valuable.
He is a great story about perseverance, but he's not more valuable. Without William Green, Cleveland's not in the playoffs. Did you see what he did last week? 170 yards. He broke Ernest Biner's record for rushing for the Cleveland Browns. Without him, they are nowhere.
And without Tommy Maddox, Pittsburgh is in the playoffs and in the driver's seat. You got to have Tommy Maddox. I'm not saying William Green isn't valuable. He's not as valuable.
Sure he is.
Did William Green make all those Hail Mary throws?
2 years
Did he
from
make those? What did I miss?
Well,
I thought the quarterback
what you
made
missed
those.
was an unbelievable performance last week to get Cleveland into the playoffs. And I'll tell you what, 2 years from now, Maddox is out of the league,
and
William
you are from Boston. Next.
Toss up, who would you rather watch, Jeremy Shockey or Terrell Owens?
Oh, come on, Jeremy Shockey. Who doesn't love watching this guy who admits in today's newspapers that he ate dirt to remember the sense of a loss? He's one of my favorite players. He's a beast. He's an animal. I wish he were on my team.
Do I understand this correctly, that you favor people who eat dirt?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to let you stay with the dirt eaters. I'm going to pick Owens, and here's why. Because he makes the more, and I love Shockey, he makes the more spectacular catches. He punches it in the end zone. I think it's 14 this year to Shockey's 2. But there's always hijinks with him. Either he's a pom-pom girl, or he's putting the ball down on the star in Dallas, or he's taking the Sharpie out. He's Robin Williams in a uniform, and that's more exciting to watch.
I disagree. I think Shockey's the most exciting thing going. And you know what? He has more catches right now for the New York Giants than all the tight ends put together last season for the Giants. You want to talk about numbers?
Does he have more than Owens?
Hey, come on. We're talking about a wide receiver and a tight end. That's not fair.
Have you noticed I've never said Terrell because I'm afraid I'm going to say Terrell? What's next?
Toss up last one. Which bye team needs their injured quarterback more, Philly or Tampa Bay?
I think it's got to be Tampa Bay. No disrespect to Donovan McNabb, but the Eagles won 5 games in a row without Donovan McNabb. And without Brad Johnson, Tampa Bay is 1-1, and they scored only 1 touchdown in 2 games. I just don't see how, as great as Donovan McNabb is, it seems Philadelphia did better without him than Tampa Bay did.
Well, I got to tell you, Donovan McNabb is a game changer. He's a guy that can take a team deep into the playoffs. Can you really say that about Brad Johnson?
Not only can I say, well, I don't know if I can say that about Brad Johnson.
I don't think you can,
but
and that's why
Donovan
McNabb is more important.
Tampa Bay has no chance to win any games in the playoffs without Brad Johnson.
Well, I feel
Philadelphia can win some.
No, I don't think they can. Donovan McNabb, they've done well without him, but now
5-0 at one point.
We're talking about the playoffs now, Tony, and you know that's a completely different season.
That's all the time we have for toss-up. And Jackie, I must say it was a pleasure to crush you. Time for a break, but don't go anywhere because we still got to talk about Mel Gibson, George Steinbrenner, and LeBron James will be back in the national spotlight tomorrow night. Actually, you were very, very good.
It's real simple. I spend cheese with bees and dropping 90 grand ain't nothing for me. Throw your arms up, move from right to left. Got ladies running their hands across my face and chest.
Spooky! T-Money, roll me out. Zoom in. see that right there? How they get there?
Yo, they said they was with you.
No. They said they were with you. I remember distinctly they said they were with you. Somebody better know something.
Smirnoff Ice Premium Malt Beverage. Intelligent nightlife.
This is gonna be one hell of a trip.
The extreme high-tech DVD hits the streets with never-before-seen action stunts. Triple X. Buy it now on special edition DVD.
That's right, let's go. Look, smoke flex. You know what I mean? The streets is out, right? You know what I mean? It's going down, Funk Master Flex.
My people, today we meet our destiny to give every man, woman, and child a chance to taste victory! Oh, yummy, gooey, cinnamon-covered Domino's Dots. Are you with me?
New Domino's Dots taste so good, we want to give everyone a chance to try them. So now, we're giving you an order free when you buy a large one-topping pizza for $9.99, only from Domino's.
I love this job.
Get the door, quick. It's free Domino's Dots.
I am a soldier. An army of one. Even though I'm a part of the strongest army in the world, I am my own force. And when it comes to me and my team, every link in the chain is strong. I am Sergeant First Class Brian Berkebell, and you can see my strength.
Rip it and rip it? Heck yeah. I think it's a great way to start a hole. With the bank. I don't think it'd be nearly as much fun if you putted first.
Charles Howard III joins golf's best at the Mercedes Championships on ESPN.
Tonight on SportsCenter, Canes and Buckeyes, not much on the line, just the #1 ranking in the land. No surprise this time. Can the Pack stop Vic? Bill and Jerry play the newlywed game while Kobe says yes to America's team. SportsCenter, 6 Eastern, ESPN.
Pardon the interruption. Presented by Smirnoff Ice Premium Malt Beverage. Intelligent nightlife.
It's happy time, Jackie. Just follow my lead like I'm Fred Astaire. Happy 47th birthday to Mel Gibson. Total hunk for a guy only 5'8", actually born in Peekskill, New York, and emigrated to Australia at age 12. I preferred him in the Lethal Weapon movies to everything else he did, including Braveheart.
Aren't we a pair, Raggedy Man? He was too short for Tina Turner in heels. He's too short for me without heels.
So maybe instead of Mel Gibson, you would prefer Kirk Gibson. Happy anniversary, George Steinbrenner. On this day in 1973, you bought the New York Yankees for $8.8 million, saying, quote, "I won't be active in the day-to-day operations of the club." Okay, you may have fibbed a little bit about that, but what a business move. Since then, the Yankees have increased in value by 11,263%.
And they've cost me $3,000. My dad, born and raised in the Bronx. We bet Yankees, Red Sox every year, and I lose every year.
Happy trails, Lefty Drizel. You're retiring as the head coach at Georgia State. He has had over 100 wins at Davidson, James Madison, Georgia State, and of course Maryland, where he may not have fulfilled his claim to make Maryland the UCLA of the East, but for his showmanship, his recruiting, and 785 victories, I say he belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Very nice man, but that whole Len Bias tragedy, I was there covering that. That's a big, dark stain for someone who should be in the Hall of Fame.
That's his Attica, but I would still put him in. Time to find out what we messed up. Stat Boy.
Well, I don't know how you could be surprised, Tony, when Jackie said that Bill Parcells is going to take the Cowboys to the playoffs in 2 seasons. That's what he did with the Giants, the Pats, the Jets, and those were dead teams when he got them as well. Last 3 Super Bowl champs all failed to make the playoffs the previous year.
I wasn't surprised. I feigned surprise to make her feel good. We're running out of show. You ready to go to the big finish?
Don't make me feel good,
Are you
Tony.
ready? Here we go. LeBron James plays on ESPN2 again tomorrow night. How do you feel about these telecasts?
I'm glad, because I want to see who I'm covering in the NBA next year. Joe Paterno says he'll probably coach another 3 to 5 years. Surprised?
I'm not surprised that he wants to coach, and they should let him coach. He's still a great coach. Kobe Bryant has committed to play for our Olympic team. Will Allen Iverson be on that team?
Like his coach Larry Brown told me, Allen's got too much to do in the summer. Tom Coughlin interviewed with the Bengals today. Would he be a good fit?
Well, he's a tough guy, and he's got experience. I don't know who's a good fit there, because it's a perpetually losing team, but if you win 5 games, you're a god there. A god. Take the job. Last question. Are you ready? Aren't you in awe of my toss-up skills?
You know, I'm really in awe of your pink shirt.
Think something about me wearing pink? We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
And I'm Jackie McMullen. Mike's back on Monday. Do you miss him, Tony?
No, I'd prefer you, actually.
The Interruption is a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For up-to-the-minute scores and statistics, log on to ESPN.com.
PTI.
This is SportsCenter.
The waiting is over. Kane's streak to perfection. The Buckeyes look for a shocker, 1 against 2. Enough said. That was then.
We're going to go in their own backyard, you know, kick their dogs, take stuff out their tool shed, beat them with it, and walk out.
And this is now how Miami shed its bad boys image for America's team. Wild Card Saturday, less than 24 hours away. The Pac's secret plan to stop Vic. And why this young Jet should be very worried. In the meantime, Bill and Jerry play the newlywed game. And why Kobe's ready to suit up for a new team. The only team you need, SportsCenter, right now. Hi there, thanks for joining us for SportsCenter. With Mike Greenberg, I'm Scott Van Pelt, getting you set for the weekend. 1 game left on the college football schedule, and Greeny, I understand it's a game of some significance.
Yeah, as they say in the biz, this one's for all the Tostitos. History will definitely be made at the Fiesta Bowl tonight, either in the magnitude of Miami's achievement or the enormity of Ohio State's upset. We begin our extensive